Welcome to Tentative Title with Tim. This is a podcast about creativity, about process, about filmmaking, and about screenwriting. Welcome everybody back to the podcast. Once again, I hope you find yourself in a good place today or tonight or whenever you happen to be listening to this. So, first off, I wanted to introduce a new thing that I'm doing, which is live streaming. I started a live stream last week, and the plan is to do them on Tuesdays, and I call it Tentative Title Tuesdays, and you can find that on the Tentative Title with Tim YouTube page. And there are some set up for future weeks, so all you have to do is go in and click the reminder button or hit the bell, all that stuff to be notified when I go live. I have it for 4 o'clock, Pacific time. So if you're on the East Coast or if you're in other parts of the world, it may be different. I don't actually know, but I mean, wherever you are at, you kind of know how to calculate all that. You probably have already been listening to a lot of live streams from all over the world, so you know when they go live and you're ready for them. So that's the big new thing that I've started to tip my toe into. I've really wanted to do that for quite a while, and just listening to other film fans and other podcasters having their live streams. I think it's a great way to kind of engage with the audience, to get some real-time feedback, to just have a conversation about some of the things that I talk about on here, because not everybody gets to listen to this podcast at the same time. Maybe they don't get to listen for a week, or they kind of forget or get busy. So that stuff happens, and that's just life. So I completely understand. But in a live stream, it's like it's there. It's very very present. People can react in real time, and that's really great, and it's exciting. I hope to see some of you guys there. I hope to talk to you guys about questions you have, or just to talk about film and film process and all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's talk about today's topic. And today's topic is about it just has to do with the conflict that an artist has concerning the world around them. And I've touched on this many, many times, how, you have to kind of create an environment for your creative process. And there are so many the ways in which you can take yourself out of the world and put yourself in the mindset of the story you're trying to tell. Because especially when you're the one creating it, like if you're, as a writer, if you're trying to create something, it can be extremely hard to kind of focus on that story. Especially if you're still figuring it out, if you're trying to figure out who the characters are, if you're trying to figure out what the plot is, it can be extremely difficult to kind of find that quiet place, the place where there's clarity about what it is you're trying to do. And that is more so when it comes to parents, and being a parent myself. Every time I try to sit down to do some creative work, it can be extremely difficult to do that when the kids are awake, essentially. And the only time I can really find to get that quiet time is sometimes in the morning or sometimes at night. And but even that can be a tough thing to do, because of the fact we also have distractions as well. And so, I've been thinking about this a lot, about how the world itself is not really or at least our modern world, is not really designed to cultivate creativity, to cultivate a sense of silence and well-being and introspection and being able to kind of like approach a story from a very honest and true point of view. And I guess I can say that like part of that is just because I myself need to create that environment that I keep talking about of being able to like not be distracted with my phone, not get up at a decent hour that I can have like a quiet time in the morning, or stay up late at night so that I have quiet time to kind of focus on the story I want to tell. But there's another layer to this as well, and I'm sure a lot of us run into this, especially as creative people. You have so many ideas. You have so many projects that are in different, they're in different, I guess, modes or in different stages. And so all of them are kind of pulling at you to work on them at the same time. And being able to prioritize which project is the one that's most likely to move forward is a way to approach it, or the one that you're most passionate about. And that can also be kind of a double-edged sword as well. If you're passionate about so many stories, and then you have all these kind of like projects pulling at your attention, and you feel like you're neglecting one over the other if you're not working on them. And sometimes it can be a very like debilitating mental block that happens, where you end up not working on anything, because it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you work on one project, that means you're not working on this other project. But if you're not working on that project doesn't move forward. And then the cycle continues over and over and over again. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just what I go through more than other people. But I have a feeling that a lot of creative people, filmmakers, writers, whatever, you kind of have this idea of having all these projects done, but not having enough time in the present, to actually get them done. And that, I mean, I guess that's it's better to have more things to do than not have anything at all. And that's kind of like a blessing of riches. And that's great. But now it comes down to being able to manage all that. And then not only managing those projects, but managing the world and your life around those projects as well. And, like I said, it's just, it can be difficult, especially if you're a parent and you got all these obligations to fit those projects in. And I'm not saying it's impossible. In fact, there have been plenty of times when I had a lot of stuff to do, and I was just able to structure my day so that I could get all that stuff done. And I don't know how something in my mind clicked, and I was like, okay, it's now time to work on such and such, and then I could do it, and it was fine. But there was this big switch known as the pandemic, in which the all of that optimism, all that hope in being able to create something that the world would be able to see or would be able to read, kind of ended up getting squashed. And this is my own journey that I'm talking about. It sounded like a lot of people, even through the fact that there was a pandemic, that they still worked, they still focused on their stories, they still wrote scripts and stuff like that. In fact, they did even more so because of the fact they had more time. That was not the case with me. The fact that I had all the time in the world meant that I was putting off my writing. It meant that I was, more introspective into my own kind of depression around the fact that the world was falling apart. At least in my point of view. For some people, it was great. They were, making a lot of money, and they were they were actually more productive. And, I'm not going to say that I wasn't finding other avenues of creativity. It's just it wasn't through what I usually used, which was writing and filmmaking. So my whole point with this was that, the fact that we have so many distractions, we have so many ways in which we can put off doing the creative work, that it actually is easier to put off the creative work. It's easier to kind of put things aside because of the fact that, like, if you have a deadline, obviously it kind of like gets you into that mode of getting stuff done. But if you're just doing things on the side, if you're just kind of doing your own stuff, it can be really hard to kind of like prioritize the projects that you want to make. And so, okay, so how do we get past this block? We're talking about mental blocks. We're talking about all these things that are getting in the way. And I think one of the things that I've learned over the years is that sometimes you just have to try not to work on it. Like, the more stress you put on yourself, the more you kind of get wrapped up in, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, the less likely you're going to do it, and the more likely you're going to go towards those distractions, because the distractions feel good. The distractions, like playing games, watching TV, going on social media, all that stuff feels way better. For the most part, social media it's kind of a crapshoot. So sometimes you go on social media and you're like, wow, I feel worse. I don't feel like creating anyway, because of the fact that, like, I was on social media and everybody's way more successful than I am, and they're getting all their stuff done, and look at me, I'm not doing anything. That's a part of it too. But you kind of like you kind of turn your attention towards something that is easy and something that is going to make you feel good and feel better, in the moment. I don't want to say that like going down the path of drinking or doing drugs and stuff like that. Like, I'm sure there are writers out there who are like, I just can't do it today, I'm just going to go drinking. And that's what they do. And, heck, some of the most famous novelists were like drunks, but, let's not go down that path, because that's another subject that I can talk about in terms of, like, you don't have to be a complete emotional and social wreck in order to be a creative person. You can be a very put together, successful, feeling good, healthy person, and actually, be more creative and have more ideas and to have more of an output, which actually brings me to another point of, if you get outside, if you go for a walk, if you, if you kind of like, we have this tension and this anxiety in our bodies that we have to work out every single day. And if we don't, then it kind of like just kind of gums up our system, so to speak. And so being able to go outside, have, if the sun's out, being able to kind of like absorb some like vitamin D, and just being able to kind of like be out in the world, to walk around and be around people. Like, there's such an amazing thing that happens, at least with me, like when I'm around people. And I'm not that much of a social person, but I do love to kind of be around people where I could just kind of sit and just kind of like, it puts things into perspective. You kind of look around and you think, wow, I'm part of, like, I'm a human being out of billions. Like, this is amazing that this whole world exists. It kind of gets you to wonder. It kind of gets you to appreciate and put things into perspective. And also, it gives you a chance to kind of look at another human being and think, okay, like, I'm trying to create something. I'm trying to be a creative person. I want to create something that I could share with people. And you kind of look around at the people around you and you're like, okay, well, what is something that they would like, like, well, what's something that, like, if you're just sitting down watching people walk by in the park or whatever, or you're just taking a walk, you just kind of ask the question, who would like the thing that I'm writing, would they like that? Or, is there something that I could make that they would like, and to kind of like get your mind working on ideas and to kind of think about what it is you're working on and how you're able to kind of like bring that creative process that away from it being like this very personal thing, and just saying, like, I just want to make something that I can share with people, that people are going to appreciate, that that it's going to make their day better, or it's going to get, like, hopefully it'll give them like some kind of perspective as well, or just entertain them, because we need a lot of like stories out there to entertain. So to be able to create something for somebody else, like, is gonna motivate you. It's gonna kind of change your mindset of like, oh, I'm just writing this because I have an assignment, to, oh no, I'm writing this because I want people to be excited about it. I want people to like to want to go to the theater, or go on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu or wherever they're watching it. Like, I want them to be excited about what it is I'm making, and that kind of can, like, get those creative juices flowing again, and get your mind in the perspective of whatever it is you're making. Like, if you're writing a novel, it gets you in the mood to like to kind of like feel the flow of how a novel is supposed to be. Or if you're writing a screenplay, you kind of like start to get those pictures of like what could happen. Or if you're in production on a film, like, so sometimes just the monotony of like shooting a film can kind of like drain some of that creativity, because it can be such a cookie cutter way to approach filmmaking. But if you go and kind of get a different perspective, you can think about a different way in which you're shooting a scene that you're possibly going to be doing next. Or it gives you a chance to kind of step out of the expectation of creativity, the expectation that you have to produce something, and that can go a long way. And being able to kind of like find a quiet place in which you can gather your thoughts. Daydream is a big part of it. Like, if you're constantly distracted, if you're constantly bombarded with demands and all kinds of just like things that take up your time and your focus, you don't get a chance to kind of like sit and daydream and let your mind wander. Because a lot of the creative stuff, a lot of the works of art, a lot of what we hold dear as a society started from somebody just daydreaming, from thinking, from being bored, from like just those moments when it seems like the most boring parts of life is just sitting around, but it actually gets your mind in a state where you start to wonder, and you start to think, and you start to analyze, and you start to question, and then all of a sudden your brain says, okay, we need to do something with this information. Or something clicks, and you're like, oh, I know how I can make this work. Or things start happening, but they can't start happening if you're constantly bombarding your brain with information and all kinds of like stimulus. Because I think for the most part, we have a lot of information in our heads already. And it can be extremely difficult to kind of like sift through that in our heads if we don't have a moment to be quiet, if we don't have a moment to just take it in and process what it is we know, what it is we're thinking about, what it is that is bothering us, or like just processing all that information. And that, I think, is one of the ways in which we can get down to finding what it is that is the most important, the thing that you care the most about. Because so often, especially nowadays, at the drop of a hat, somebody can say, blah, 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 this is wrong. And they kind of steal the attention. They take the air out of the room. And then for some reason, we are forced to care about something that maybe we could care less about. Like even after the whole hype has died down, you think back to it and you're like, well, I didn't care about that at all. That had nothing to do with anything I care about. Why was I so outraged? Why was I, just like wrapped up in this moment? Like I could care less about this. And it happens all the time. And it steals our focus. It steals our ability to kind of, think about things that matter to us, because we're constantly told that we have to care about everything all the time, every moment of the day. And it's exhausting. And it kind of takes away from our creative juices, because we're like, well, there's a story that I really care about that I want to tell. So I need to block out everything else in order to get that thing on paper, or to get that thing on film, or, to get it, to put it together so I can put it out into the world. Like there's so many distractions. The world is constantly in conflict with the artist, because the artist really, really wants to dig deep, wants to find interesting ways to show the world. It wants to talk about the world in a very specific way. And the world says that they love artists, but I don't know if they do. I think in a lot of ways they say they love artists because it can be popular, or it can make them seem like they're more cultured. But when it comes down to it, like the arts, the thing that you're making will probably be the first thing to go. And that is like, if you don't care about it, then they're not going to care about it. And that's another layer to it. Like the thing you care about, like make sure that you focus on that. Make sure that you're writing that story, that you're filming that story, that you're putting that story out into the world, because the world sometimes doesn't care, and they may never ever care. But that's okay, because you care. And there are probably other people in the world who also care about that story too. And you just got to find those people. So I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you guys. This turned into more of a rant, but I think there's some practical information in this. I think there's a call to action that we need to structure our lives, especially as artists, around having these quiet moments, having these moments, having time built into our day, where even though the world may try to infringe on that creative time, that we fight back and say, no, this time is for me. This time is for me to take what I believe inside, or to take some characters and a story that I really believe in, that I think is going to benefit the world, or at least entertain the world, at least give the world something that they can kind of like, watch or read, that will kind of, take their worries away for a short moment, or to give some kind of like introspection that maybe they are looking for, because in a lot of ways we're in a world that doesn't, we're not into having a catharsis anymore. We're not into coming to a point, like a breaking point emotionally, where like the beauty of a story like rings true in our hearts, and kind of like imprints a beautiful moment into our minds that we will never forget. I don't know if we know how to do that anymore, because by doing that, it means we have to talk about the truth. It means we have to it means that we have to go to places that a lot of people could care less about going to, like they just don't want to. But I think we need to. I think we need to have a catharsis, but I also think we need to have stuff that is of great comedy and satire, and that looks at the world and says, you know what, a lot of things are really stupid about the world. There are a lot of things that are not quite right with the world, and being able to poke fun at it and not really be afraid that that they're going to get canceled over it, because let's face it, there's some pretty absurd things in the world, and if we're not able to joke about it, then that means that I just don't know what it means. I guess it means that nobody can laugh anymore. Like nobody can have fun or like, punch up, as they say, if you're not able to kind of like criticize and satirize like the people in power, then what's happening? Like that we're no longer in a society in which we can be free to joke about certain things, and that's really scary. But that's why we need the artists. We need the people out there who are looking at the state of the world and looking at society and saying, I need to tell a story that talks about this specific issue, and it doesn't have to be directly about that issue. It can be allegory. It can be in any other form. I mean, if you want to, you can have a direct story, but that would end up being just a documentary, and that's also useful. But there's a need for a lot of this stuff, and it feel like the creative work that people do sometimes feels stifled, and maybe that's what I'm going through right now, where I feel like if I create something, that I'm already stifling myself because of the fact that I know that that it's already going to happen anyway, so I might as well just do it before it happens. But even that doesn't make any sense. So I don't know. I'm going through some stuff. I'm trying to figure it out, and maybe just trying to get back on that schedule that I had pre-pandemic is just the answer. I don't know, but I've tried so many things so far, and it's just, I gotta just keep trying, because like I really love telling stories. I really want the things that I make to go out into the world and entertain and maybe have some kind of insight on something. Hopefully, I don't know. I don't get to define that. None of us get to define what our work does in the world. All we can, our responsibility is just to make whatever it is in our heart, craft it into a way that people can read it or watch it and understand what it is we're trying to say, and then I guess kind of walk away and say, okay, I put it out into the world. Let the world kind of like take it in and kind of take from it what they will. And we don't have to defend it. We just have to put it out there and say, this is what I was feeling or thinking. I'm going to put it out. This is what it was in relation to, putting it out into the world. And now I'm moving on to the next thing. I'm like what Denzel Washington always says when somebody says, hey, what's your favorite part? What's your favorite movie or whatever? And he always says, it's the next one. He's always looking to the next thing. He's always looking ahead. He's not worrying about what's behind him. And that's a great motivational quote to kind of leave on, because it is about the next one. Just like, get it done, move on to the next one. Get it done, move on to the next one. And that's what I'm trying to get back to, because I was there at a certain point, and I know I can, and I know you can too if you're in the same place I am. I have faith. I want to see the things you make. Send me links to the things you make. I want to see that, because let's create stuff. Let's get it going. All right, guys. Until the next one. If you'd like to connect with me, there is an email for the podcast. It's tentative.title.with.tim.podcast @gmail.com. There's also a Twitter account. The handle is @title_Tim. There's also a Facebook page where you can post questions, or you can connect with me there. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you on the next one.